Hey everybody. I just felt very compelled to share some things this evening. It's very late, um, but I feel very compelled to just do this right now. This isn't a super put together, um, polished presentation or thing, but it's something that I just feel like I need to share and get out there. I've kept quiet for years, basically, on matters political for years now, and just maintaining neutrality and observing and keeping my own peace, and where attention goes, energy flows, and ultimately we create our own reality by what we focus on, and our inner state. But we still live in a physical 3D world, and with a lot of other people in this world. And that means that there's a lot of other things going on. And I foresaw all of this stuff coming a very long time ago. In fact, many of the themes and motivations in the graphic novel that I started working on so long ago. And yeah, it's funny because it was like a fictional way of bringing real themes and real ancient history and awareness and a whole bunch of... Anyways, long story short, we're at a time right now where things are going to be changing very quickly, and people need to know. And I wanted to share some things. Maybe some of you out there know all these things. Maybe you know some. There's going to be some people out there that don't know any of this stuff at all. I'm going to start by saying a lot of this stuff can feel heavy. It can feel scary. And it's dangerous because we can get lost in it. So we have to be able to pull ourselves out of it and judge for ourselves what we can handle or take. But I believe that people also want to know the truth. People want to know what's true so that they can make informed decisions. And I've just had, like, really, I mean, since the Epstein files have been released, and I did that post last week and mentioning doing a deep dive into it, and it truly wrecked me. Just like emotionally, in my soul, I had to cleanse myself after, and find some peace. Basically, like almost every conspiracy is true. There's been a number of things that I've paid attention to over the years, things that I believed were probably true, and there were things I thought there's no way that this is real or true, and sure enough it is. But the thing that's just happened now is like all of the puzzle pieces are fitting together of how this whole world is operating, and the forces that lead it. There's the dark and there's the light, good. And before I get into any of this, and I'm going to finish on it, is the importance of believing and knowing that the light will win. The light is going to win, but we need to stay awake and stay vigilant and be in control of our energy and our body and direct our thoughts where we need to. But we live in a 3D physical world, and the biggest way to create change is as a united front all together. So without further ado, this is going to be like doing a very quick overview, teaching a class, but I am like going to quickly cover a whole bunch of stuff. And I think I'll be sharing over time just reference and evidence and all of that as well, to kind of back it up and put the pieces together. Like, these are some pieces I've been following for decades, and some are just like in the last 2 weeks, um, but heavily in the last few years. Anyways, so the Epstein files. Let's begin. Oh boy. All right. So the files, basically, we know that Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile. You've probably heard about all of the rich and wealthy people that are involved in it, all of the elite. I'm going to call them the E-files because I don't even feel like writing his name. And we have the super elite, and there are so many people compromised in it. And we know that there was obviously the underage girls that had been raped and whatnot. But even worse is the child trafficking. The child trafficking runs so deep and is so global, national and global, and all over the place. And the numbers are insane. The really disturbing things that I've seen are the evidence of cannibalism and eating people. Now, maybe this sounds crazy and too much. Let me just tell you, I was in tears for the things that I saw. Basically, the network runs extremely deep, extremely deep. So you have the elite, let me say super elite. And then in this, with the child trafficking, there's genetic experiments, there is cloning, there is training and conditioning children for being agents, assassins. This sounds fucking crazy, I know, but it's all true. Under the super elite, not the Jewish people, the Zionists, the extreme Zionists, and the connections for agents and infiltration into the US system. And Epstein had all kinds of ties there, still does, because he's alive and he is there. If you look up, there's pictures that have recently been released. We know at the start, oh, it didn't look like him. They have footage in the files of the prison guards, or like of glitches, or not glitches in the files, but blanks in the video evidence. You have a prison guard that's basically confessed about him going out, and then you have the U.S. government making a statement about him committing suicide in documents, draft documents, the day before. He's alive, and he's very heavily supported. And basically, under all of this stuff and the cannibalism and all of that is like satanic practices, literally. Where real Eyes Wide Shut movie stuff, which was a foretelling of it, and then Kubrick was mysteriously dead in the months following the release of the movie, is all true. And yeah, in these rituals, some crazy supernatural things happen. So let me tell you, the reason why also this is so important right now is because we know Trump is in the files. And we know that Trump is mentioned in the files more times than the word the is in the Bible. Forget Jesus, how many times Jesus is mentioned in the Bible. He's in the more than the word "the" is in the Bible. And he's obviously trying to protect himself. We know he's a liar and a felon and you know, a criminal, and he just cares about himself. I don't think I need to explain that to anybody, hopefully, who's listening. And if anyone doesn't believe that, I knew when he was going to get elected. It's like, yeah, I know he is going to clear out the swamp that needed to be cleared, but he's going to replace it with his own, which he did, and to make what this is now. So, anyways, he's on the chopping blocks right now, and he doesn't want them to be released because of his name being in it, which is why he's gonna be bombing Iran in the next couple of days. Because if there's a state of war, then he, you can't impeach a president during a state of war. So my theory, this is me saying this part, that I feel like that is one thing. The second thing, his big thing that he wanted to do, to be known for, well, he'll do whatever it takes, whatever is needed to be known for. That's attractive to him, right? So, my phone just blinked. Which, on another sidebar, we'll get down to the tech, and our phones are monitored constantly. And in fact, the latest update on Apple and privacy and security settings is basically like they can download all of your messages and pictures and have access to all of that. And you have to go into security and privacy and manually turn it off. But the catch is like it won't even stay off. It automatically will reset to sharing again within a week. Sidebar, because my phone just did something weird, and it can listen even when your phone's off, by the way. It's always able to listen and pick up. Have you ever turned off your phone and then like felt like it was listening because you're getting these targeted ads, or it was listening when you were on a phone call? This is why. Anyways, what I was going to say was he was actually almost going to do this in 2016, which was disclose the fact that aliens are real and they exist. Well, Barack Obama said this the other day in an interview, in a question, a rapid fire question: do aliens exist? And Obama said, are they real? And he said yes. Since he has later taken that back and said, they're probably real, whatever, because he had people come and tell him to do that. Trump would like that limelight, to be able to be the president. I mean, what greater announcement could there be? And also a time when there hasn't been approval rating as low for anyone ever, to make this big announcement and reveal that we aren't alone in this galaxy, which is obvious, and which is something that's not new to me. I've since I was a teenager, I saw my first UFOs when I was a young teenager, out on the farm. 3 lights in the sky, and I grew up on military bases. I know what planes and helicopters are able to do, and it wasn't that. It was 3 lights going in and out and slowly turning. And then by the time I got to universities, you know, on the internet, then YouTube starting, and seeing videos of what I saw in other areas of the world. This is like a whole, just the alien piece is a whole deep dive on its own. The quick overview is that we have extraterrestrial craft, we have extraterrestrial biologics. This isn't conspiracy. They've been in Congress for the last 2 years testifying to Congress, because Congress doesn't even know, and some of the presidents didn't even know what has been going on, because some of the tech companies got major contracts decades ago, when there was an increased, and you know, all the Roswell, the UFO, all of that kind of stuff was happening at the height of nuclear weaponry. And the reason that they were here was basically because they didn't want us to destroy ourselves. we would have multiple times. It's come out in documents, and this is so deep. I'm giving you guys the briefest overview if this is new to you, and some of you may be deep down the rabbit hole of this for a long time, like I have. And the shortest overview possible. They've been here for a very long time. It's been more active since the 50s and then the 60s. Make contact and recovered craft, recovered biologics, trying to reverse engineer. So there were contracts with major tech companies, as obviously the government doesn't build all of the weapons and planes and everything. They're the massive tech companies that do. And yeah, the race to reverse engineer these craft that defy physics. So much has been released now because the amount of time classified material has to be retained has gone by, that some things have come to light, and now things are happening in Congress. Testimonials are coming out. But the problem is that a lot of these people can't come forward because they're getting threatened, they're disappearing, and that's because of all of this top secret weaponry. Now, they have reverse engineered these UFOs. They have been able to do that. And many of the ones that we see, and I'm not going to go into all the different types right now and what is actual UFOs and what is not, well, UAPs, what is human reverse engineered versus what is extraterrestrial. I'm not going to get into all of that right now, but the point is that they have them. One of the people, which came out early, is Bob Lazar. And also there's been David Grush, and you have Michael Greer. Those are names that you can look up if this is new to you. So basically the quick overview that I'm getting to this point just quickly. This is like hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, days of information on all of this that I could get into. What's most important to know is that there is a secret initiative, basically, where it's called Project Bluebeam, where basically they would stage a fake alien invasion. They've reversed engineered the crafts, and they would create a fake alien invasion. I actually thought last Christmas, New Year's, that's what was going to be happening. If you remember all of the drone sightings in New Jersey, New York, and all over the city, that they said weren't theirs, and then they said, no, they're ours, and then, but they didn't know what they were and didn't know where they were coming from, and there were ones coming out of the ocean, and then there was, long story short, they were theirs, not the government's, but likely one of the tech companies like Lockheed or whatever. And there were some actual real ones amongst them too. Not going to get into the differences. Point I'm saying is that part of that plan is to stake a fake alien invasion, which basically makes us give more power to the government, puts us basically in another pandemic, which was, part of the whole COVID-19 plan. In the Epstein files, there's also, we know Bill Gates was in it. So we got Gates and Microsoft in there. There's things like Gates talking about, and him talking about what they were going to do with the poor people problem. Talks about MRNA and like the vaccinations and planning for the pandemic, and well, aside from Gates, there's also 9/11, which is connected to these guys. Not the Arabs. So Gates Microsoft, who right now, by the way, is also doing mRNA spraying on crops in the US, because we have the whole food system, which is a big part of our problem, and all of this is going to connect. So we have the mRNA vaccinations. So one of the things that I thought was crazy, I'm not even going to get into, I mean, medicine has saved my life, and medicine and doctors have made my life worse at times. I always question everything. I'm not going to get into my whole story of what I experienced in pandemic and the shot and whatever. Obviously, it wasn't tested long enough. Bill Gates, they knew that. That was the point. Push it along. The mRNA is like the protein, and also the whole genetic therapy. The other thing that was a big conspiracy, which I personally didn't believe in, the whole nanotechnology, and I thought, no way, we're not doing that. That's crazy. Well, Amazon has a patent. If you guys have seen Elon Musk, and I don't know if you've seen the guys with the neurological chips, the quadriplegics, no use of their muscles or limbs, and then they're like able to basically use their computer screen just by thoughts, like think of words, and then they show up on the screen and play video games, and like they're banned from like Call of Duty or whatever in the platforms because they're too good. They basically just like shoot that guy and it just does it. Anyways, that's a chip, okay? There's also a patent for nanotechnology that does the same thing through an injection, okay? They've actually got this type of technology available. On top of that, it's the amount of, and now let me just also be clear, I personally have not been personally like anti-vax everything. I've been questionable. I don't take the flu shot. I don't take, like, I think so much is not necessary. We live in these healthy bodies that were built to do so much on its own. Anyways, sidebar. In the food, in the mRNA, we've got heavy metals that are in both of them, which are actually causing a whole bunch of issues. During COVID, during the pandemic, noticed a lot of people getting stressed. A lot of people looking old quickly during the pandemic. A lot of people thought, yeah, it was the stress or whatever. I didn't think it was the stress personally. Something I noticed happening during the pandemic was like tons of 5G networks were going up. 5G was going up everywhere. We're all in lockdown, but the workers are out there and installing these towers everywhere. Let me tell you that the towers are also classified by the military, not as communication towers. I forget the acronym off the top of my head, but it's basically weapons, weapon emission towers, okay? I knew from ages ago that, and maybe some of you have too, basically electrical frequencies, all of our bodies have an electrical frequencies running through them. All of our cells are charged with electricity, and then you have the dirty electricity, which like is our phones, which is computers, TVs, outlets, all of that stuff. You can put I forget what you call it, but like the reader up to devices, and you can actually see how much it's emitting. So that drains our electromagnetic frequency. I like try and make sure that I shut off my Bluetooth every night before I go to sleep, and I try and put my phone far away, like I've been for last 2 decades, because I knew Bluetooth and these things that emit frequencies, right? They're bad for us. The idea of having your phone under your pillow and the sleep monitor stuff, like with these Wi-Fi waves going through you, it's horrible. Okay, but it's all at a micro level that's not immediately noticeable. I was really sensitive when I have trouble sleeping. I'll be like, oh, I'll wake up and be like, I forgot to shut off my Bluetooth. I checked my phone. Sure enough, Bluetooth was on. So the 5G towers that are up everywhere, broadcasting at a super unnecessary frequency. Not going to get into all of this, but that can interact with all of the metals that are in our bodies, not just if people have taken the vaccination, but it's in our food, it's in our water, it's in almost every vaccination now. They're starting to say they're converting to the MRNA. This is also connected, like I said, to the food industry. They're now going to be spraying crops with herbicides that have mRNA in it. And then Coca-Cola just signed a deal with Microsoft, and there's some kind of like, I don't know what's showing up in the drinks now. I'm going to start sharing all of these links for things after. So what I'm getting to is that these 5G, they can amp these up, and then it can affect these things that are in our systems, the heavy metals and vaccinations and all of this, because things operate on frequency. Do a deep dive into Nikola Tesla and the groundbreaking stuff that he was doing, and the reason why he died, and all of his works, all of his breakthrough inventions disappeared, like free electricity, which is like this 0 point energy that the extraterrestrial crafts have, that we could all have free electricity. Well, that doesn't help the oil industry, and it doesn't help. So that was like guarded and kept a secret. And then you have these guys reverse engineering it with government money, elite and government money, to basically, create all of this technology, which is controlled then by the super elite that are in the files, doing satanic worship, cannibals eating children, talk about food, McDonald's finding human DNA in meat and food. Beyond that, it's horrible. The stuff, the chemicals that are in fast food are just like toxic, horrible. And then now when this comes to light, I thought that would be like, I mean, if someone told me that, that'd be crazy. You'd probably think that I'm crazy. The photos and the evidence and all of this stuff is just coming out. We obviously have a lot of abortions in the world. We've got companies that do abortions that are subcontracted with like BlackRock or owned by BlackRock. And there's actually permission for them to take these aborted fetuses and put them into products. And they're used for flavoring. Pepsi is one of them. Where was I going with that before that? Oh, also, the reason why they also do this stuff beyond the satanic stuff, one of the things that's completely sickening is getting their victims, their children, into a state of fear to produce, what is it called, androchrome, which is like a drug that they basically are harvesting. Let me also say, when I'm done all of this, we are going to return to the hope, to the love, to the peace. Forget hope, faith and love, and switching to the desired outcome. This is like information so people can be awake, people can be aware, because this is a super important time and things could happen very fast. One of the things that could happen as well is like an EMP drop and we have a complete grid wipeout. Like, another person who is great to listen to, if you haven't already, is Sean Ryan and his podcast, and he's like Joe Rogan but more legit. He's an ex-SEAL, and he has legit people who are, I mean, Joe Rogan sometimes does too, but like, this is like an ex-military guy bringing in other military, government people, who are basically whistleblowing, and it's real. It's real, real talk and evidence. Also, in terms of like with the children and stuff, and you have government programs, which basically are training children. You've probably seen like I haven't heard of them yet, like the telepathy tapes, but I mean, I believe in all of that stuff and have been following it for years. But basically using, there's been also a long time of basically people who are able to do remote viewing, see locations that work for the government. A good friend of mine is friends with and has been interviewing on his podcast, and he's all over. The first one who was doing the remote viewing exercises is basically for intelligence, for basically looking for locations, and this is a whole other super interesting, there's hours and hours of the most interesting stuff on this. Good man, good stuff. But basically the whole using children, or finding these children that have abilities and then using them, like that's coming up. Like all of this stuff, the whole pedophilia ring that runs deep in all of this stuff, and in Hollywood, and because obviously we know the influence of media and what it can do, and they knew that very early on. Linkin Park, the band. I didn't know this until recently. There's a Linkin Park that was basically a government facility in Canada, that basically held children for experimentation. The lead singer was someone who had a very troubled, abused childhood, and was working on a documentary with some others who also suddenly, apparently, took their own lives. All working like Chris Cornell-Levici, and I mean, one of the major people in the pedophilia ring and that's listed in the Epstein files is John Podesta, and you put a picture of them side by side and it looks just like his father. These people are in there and they're having sex with children and young women, and it's just absolutely disgusting. And it's the tip of the iceberg, and like this is all moving forward and fast. And again, this stuff is scary. It makes you feel hopeless. It's bad. It feels bad in the energy. And after this, you got to cleanse it. It's going to be difficult and hard, but then you got to move out of it. And basically, because like they also want people to feel hopeless, right? They want people to feel like they're out of control and that they can't do anything. And then you've got AI coming up as well, right? So it's like such an important time to be conscious, to be aware. When AI can do everything for you, you don't have to think, you don't have to work, you don't have to be creative, because it's all just doing it for you. And part of the plan is for a new world, and part of the whole mRNA and food and 5G and all of that stuff, if they wanted to eliminate people and basically send people's bodies into a shock that makes it look like some kind of virus, they can do that in controlled areas. The 5Gs are mapped out, overlapping each other in specific grids all over the place. All right. So basically, why I'm saying all of this stuff right now and sharing it. Oh, sorry. Before I continue to go on, like mentioning other companies as well. Just like if you have kids and you haven't heard about Roblox, because all these people in the top are all owning and running all these companies. Like if you haven't heard about Roblox and you're a parent, my God, do a deep dive into that. It is just like a hunting ground for predators, and people are being caught. And then you have these vigilantes that are going in there and catching these people, and the company's blocking the people that are exposing the predators. Like they're not even doing anything to make to do anything to stop the. It's basically they care more about their monthly fees. They released a statement, and like, anyways, just sick, something to also look into. All right. On top of that, I've written some things down here. See if there's anything major. I'm just gonna wrap this up here. Well, the reason why, I was feeling like it was a rush right now is because of obviously Trump's guilty and he doesn't want to get caught and doesn't want to release the files and doesn't want to be impeached, and all of this stuff that might move on fast. I just saw like China landed in Iran, and I know they're framing us because of our new partnership with China to. There's just going to be a lot going on quickly, and everyone is getting more bold. Obviously, to me, it's just like the bottom line is no killing. I mean, that's with Israel and the horrible attacks on the people at the concert, obviously, but then, I mean, as soon as that happened, like it was just like, ugh, this is exactly what they were looking for, was an excuse for wiping out, as they always said they would, all the land, which Trump is now gonna, with his board of peace, rebuild, because they're all in the U.S. governments all over the world, because the vision is basically, I'm not even gonna go there. Let's just wrap it up and say that the elite that are in power are wanting to reform and reshape things in a way at the expense of the general humanity. And it's up to us to be aware of what's going on. It's up to us to be prepared for anything that can happen. It's us to be healthy in our bodies and in our minds and in our spirits. And amongst all of this stuff that is going on, to turn to love, to turn to presence, to be aware of things that are going on, but knowing when to shut off our phones, to not get lost in it, because it does affect our energy. It does affect our vibration. We all have an energetic vibration and resonance that affects us, and this is the stuff that I'm so passionate about, and that I like to share about, and I'm going to be sharing more about, because the way that this is going to get better is by operating in higher frequencies, and basically moving forward with what it is that we desire, not focusing on what we don't want, focusing on the future that we do want, and moving forward. A lot of well, all of this stuff is real, but it can be it can be a lot, and so that's up to each and every person how much they're able to. I debated sharing any of this stuff for a long time because I don't want to be that guy. And I mean, I've shared with some people some of these things long before they were proven to be true, and oh, you know, Josh is going crazy, oh, it's a conspiracy or this or that, and now things that were not even in my wildest dreams, like also, you know, manipulating the weather. You've got um, this is again one of the things that I thought there's no way this is true, and then you've got openly just like, oh yeah, the big floods that happened in Dubai 2 years ago and that were massive, that's because they were cloud seeding. I thought the chemtrails, that's crazy. There have been jet trails for ages. There are jet trails. So whenever you just look, it's not always a chemtrail. There's jet trails and there's chemtrails, and there's ways to tell the difference. 100% true. We've got people that are actually doing it. That that have come forward, and you know, evidence. It's basically like an aerosol that is sprayed out and trying to slow down the effects of global warming control, you know, putting chemicals and stuff and in the air. So there's like all of this stuff happening that's affecting our world. You know, here we just had the biggest snow dump ever after things have been getting warmer and warmer and warmer because of global warming, and then so much of the polar ice is melted that, you know, the oceans have dropped in temperature, and then it brings up, that's why we're having all of this extreme weather. And then you throw in whatever they're doing superficially or artificially, I should say, and then like the craziest things that you would like, everything is just coming forward. And that's because this is like a time, if you're into this stuff too, it's like been saying, like, this is like the age of disclosure. This is the time for truth. And it's amazing the things that have been predicted that have actually happened and are happening right now. So the good is the truth comes to light. This is happening not because it's getting worse. It's happening because the light is winning. We are winning. This is the good that is winning right now, because all of this stuff is happening basically because it's like panic action mode now. All right. I personally don't believe that the Epstein files are a distraction. They're the tip of the iceberg. But it's like, it is still an iceberg. There's a whole lot of other things under it, but it's been exposed, and we have to steer clear of it. And we gotta, like, there does have to be a whole new way of operating and existing, and that's something I've thought a lot about. I'm not gonna get into here, but when the time comes where you seeing UAPs in the sky, or you're hearing the government talking about aliens, I don't want you to be afraid. They've been here for a long time. I know people that have actually seen our man-made ones chasing actual ones. If there's harm being done, it's likely being manipulated by them to cause panic in us and lock us down. You know, this is why gold is going up, because like what's happening with the economy is crazy. There's been predictions of the crash, and like countries are printing money. Like it's just a crazy sham. If you have taken the vaccination, things like white pine needle tea, colloquial gold, I've heard, there are ways to mitigate those effects. So I think I'm going to be sharing more about this stuff. I would love to know if you would want to hear more. The thing that I will be doing for sure, though, is focusing on our spiritual selves, our mental health, our emotional health, amongst all that's going on in navigating it and staying high and staying above it. It is a beautiful life. It is a beautiful world we hear. All right. And we need to make sure that the light wins as it will, the good will come out on top as it will. It is time for a new earth, a new way of being that's harmonious with the land and not operating in greed and power, and instead in community and expansion and experience and love, and that's what I believe in. All right, I think I've covered the basic overview as quickly as possible. If you have questions or whatever, as soon as you start looking at this stuff, there's going to be more coming out. Just try and make sure you do your diligence to look for the actual evidence of what you find. But the crazy thing now is, like, so much has been exposed. It's almost like if it's conspiracy, it's probably true. It's absolutely wild. Yeah. I'm just thinking about another 2 or 3 crazy things that are true. But anyways, I will leave it at that. If you've been listening, thank you for listening. Thank you for being open. Thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for, having the courage to and the curiosity. And like I said, especially for those, if you haven't heard about any of this type of stuff, if this is all just a complete shock and new to you, I know how I felt about certain things when I first found out and saw them, and how that could feel. So sending you a virtual hug through the waves. And yeah, we're in this together, but it's like through this awareness and through community and through supporting each other in kindness, and just shining our light as bright as possible. That's how we move forward and get through this. All right. They can't lie if we already know the truth.